Hello, Lynette.
Hang on, I gotta push this button. Okay, there we go. Hi, good to see you.
Good to
Thank
see
you
you.
for asking me to do this, by the way.
Always. So, to give a background, I've been getting lots of questions about stuttering. And before I work with people, I always like to consult with you and to know what it is that we need to know and to know what to do in terms of how can we grow. So, please go ahead and tell us what you think people
Just
need to know about
hold the
stuttering.
question, fix it.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with my world. Right now, I'm traveling on the road, and you asking me to do this meant that I had to try to think about how distracting my background was and how it would affect what we're doing now. So we just spent a couple minutes where I went, oh, that light's flaring. I got to turn it off. Oh, it's a gray day. I can't control the lighting on my face. Oh, my shirt has it's my granddaughter's shirt, and it has a emblem here that would be advertising, which I can't do. So I turned it inside out. I've got the brain in the spot so you can see it. That's your environment, right? So here's where we can control our environment. We can say, wow, in order for me to get my message across well, I need to control my environment so it doesn't distract everyone into thinking, that what they're paying attention to instead of me is my background. Like, why does she have that there? How come I can see? I'm in a hotel room, so I'm like, I got to get the bed out, right? Well, your person in your life is affected by the environment. Their brain is pulling in all the information in the environment, and they cannot say to you, oh, look, a hair. They can't do that. They can't say to you, stop talking, stop asking me questions. I need to take a breath, take in my environment, get my brain to assess everything that's being asked of me, and then respond. They don't have this ability because we don't give it.
Mm.
When we give this control, this ability, when we make it kind of natural to say, hey, I'm good. You can even plant the question before you ask the question. You can say, I'm going to come back in a few minutes. I have some dishes to wash, but I wanted to talk about what happened in school today because I got to know, and whatever the issue is. Or when I come back, we'll talk about why you don't want to clean your room. Or when I come, so they have time. They have time to think, okay, this is what I'm going to say. That'll make it worse or better, depending on the environment, depending on you, depending on them. So let's start there, because a lot of the people that you talk to are parents, and what they do is that they run around going, is it a stutter? What's the problem? Looking for the neurological cause. That's usually not going to be very fruitful. It's usually just going to get you a lot of stress, which increases the stutter.
Mm.
However, I can tell you right now, usually you deal with it with speech therapy, yoga is good, things like that. Anything that gets the whole body and the brain and the mouth sort of working in conjunction, calming down and getting focused. Anything like that will be helpful. So this parent's like, oh, what? Well, it's a stutter. You don't need to go to the doctor to find out, but you're going anyway because you're like, ah. So let's calm down, because that environment, if I make a lot of noise with my environment and have all my mess there, you keep paying attention to it. It changes how your brain functions. It's the same for your child. And I'm using physical things as an example, but I'm actually talking about your presentation, the speed you talk at, the child with. Actually, I just made a slip of the tongue. I said talk at. But actually, that was a good slip, because don't talk at, talk with, Okay, so here we are. We've got this child. They start to stutter. How old are they? Is it language development? Because often what's happening is as language develops, especially, and in this case, this applies to many of your clients, multilingual families. So as the brain develops language, often one aspect of language comes before another. For example, I know the word I want to say, and all of my comprehension and the words I want to say out, that moves at a certain speed, that processes quickly. But the execution in the mouth is not processing quickly.
So that's what's happening.
Right. Sometimes there's lots of things, but let's use that. So if you have, some people have what I would call a mental stutter. They'll say, I know the word, but I'm just standing there frozen before I can get it out. So it's like stuttering in the head in a little echo and then comes out. So they look like they're pausing a lot. And they're frustrated because everyone's saying, hurry up. The environment's saying, hurry up, do it different. Don't stutter. Stop talking like that. Or here, I'll answer for you. Oh, you stutter. All those things make it worse because now that person, think of it as their brain process. That person takes that on and adds that to this processing issue. Oh, I know everything I want to say and they're getting mad at me. And so now there's an extra thing to think about. And that extra thing to think about is getting in the way of the mouth and the tongue, learning to work congruently, and the breathing and the throat. There's so much to speech, so much. So the environment matters. Yeah, and that's really good news because that is something you can help with. So I want you to check. Of course, you want to check, go to the doctor, do those things. But if it isn't a sudden onset later in life, then there's a really good chance it's language development. A lot of children do fine after about age 5 when that language development, when that ability to execute speech catches up to the processing of it, catches up to the processing in the head. Just think multilingually, they're going, do I answer in French? Do I answer in English? Do I answer in German? Do I answer in,
True.
Yeah. So to start, before we even get into anything else, take a minute and say, how can I just relax into this so that they relax? Because that's going to make the difference. They say that many children, studies say that many children will develop out of a stutter by about age 5. And I contend that many more would have had many more environments taking care of, making sure that everything's the way you want it before you start. So take a breath here with your child and go, okay, this is probably developmental. I'll check on things, but it's probably developmental and it's cute as heck. And it just means they're learning to talk and they're trying to grab the word. And how exciting is that? So if they're young, go with it that way. All right, questions, please. Because this is a big subject. And we could talk, I could just go, and I might not get to the things that you're being asked. So let's try and focus it a bit.
I'm so glad you spoke about the pre-age 5 stutter because yes, that is very common. But let's talk about the ones where the stutter does stay. And I love that you brought up, relaxing about the things that need to be done around that stutter. But I also feel like there's a balance between trying to help with that growth and then letting go. And that's so hard to teach parents of, okay, be there for your child and I don't know, you that's what I need right now. It's more, okay, when it comes to stuttering, can neurofeedback help? Are there techniques when it comes to behavioral or play therapy that we're supposed to do to help with stutter that has stayed. And
those
yeah,
are a
and
million questions. So can you slow down?
go.
I don't know which one you want me to answer first. So let's start with, okay, yes, the balance is correct. So I wanted to highlight that you do have a role as a parent or caregiver to make life easier so that the person can do the learning they need to learn, make it fun, make it easy. And not to focus too hard on the stutter, but to help. So that's where you're talking about that balance. Like, where is focus a problem versus a helpmate, right? So I'm going to answer that one, and then I'm going to answer neurofeedback, but I'm going to flip the order. So let's go with neurofeedback first. Neurofeedback, well, if you think in terms of the way I said, one area is processing at a different speed than the other area, then yes, I've used that thinking and I've looked for anomalies in the brain. Aside from those answers, there's a couple things to know. If there's a seizure disorder, for example, you can end up with a stutter. So if you have a seizure disorder that's not notable, which is why you still do go to the doctor, right? If it's a one where they're just having petit mal seizures, they're blanking out, and you're not recognizing it as a seizure, there's a very good chance that they will also develop a stutter. So I've often seen stutters happen with paroxysmal activity in the parietal lobe. For parents who don't know what that means, that's like huge amplitude of a certain wave formation shouting at the same time back here in the head. And so then I've treated that with neurofeedback. You can't treat it really behaviorally without using neurofeedback. So anytime that the brain is firing in a way that's interrupting the processing, you can end up with a stutter. If it's a focus interruption, you can end up with a stutter. If it's an execution interruption, you can end up with a stutter. If it's, see how, now that's part of brain development. As your brain's developing in childhood, neurons are migrating into the frontal lobe. They aren't even all there till you're 7. They haven't developed till you're in your 20s. Like there's a lot of change and growing that's happening. And if your brain is developing and some parts develop faster than others, like a person who's better running than they are coloring, but later they do it both well. Right? We sort of develop inside our brain in these bunches, depending on our environment, depending on us, what we like, things like that. So neurofeedback can smooth that course. It can say, yes, you know, this activity shouldn't be here. Let's lessen that. Wow, you got too much fast processing over here in comparison to here. This is really slow. You can bring that into balance and smooth that course, and it helps stuttering a lot. And there's not an exact method because it depends on what's going on. But you can start in the sensory motor strip and look to see, you know, is there an imbalance here compared to F7, you know, the speech that executing speech area or the speech recognition area, look left to right. There's lots you can do. And in the process, give these other tips. Before I get to talking about the help versus hurt, I want you to know that there's many drugs that can create a stutter. So check what you've given your child or are giving your child, or check before giving to your child. Antidepressants can cause a stutter. The clonopines, there's lots of things that have a stutter as a side effect, and often that becomes permanent even when you take that away. So always check whatever you're given. Always check before giving anything to your child, especially stimulants, because they can cause stutters. It's so common to give kids stimulants in order to get them to sit calmly. It sounds opposite, but it's how it works. Sit calmly in school, and then all of a sudden you have a kid stuttering, and how awful. You just didn't need to give them the stimulant. So really be careful about the drugs that you give your child, and make sure
Good
that, yeah, first sign of something that's problematic, don't let them tell you, wait till they adjust, right? Going, no, it's looking like this one's not so good for my child. Or try neurofeedback or something. Okay, help versus hurt. I'm trying to cover it all. That was big questions. Do you want to say something before I go to
No,
help versus hurt?
you're good.
Okay.
I'm listening.
That's always hard. I don't think that there's an arena within which that isn't hard. You can be a math student and be brilliant, and I'm the teacher, and I come over at the wrong time and say something about how you're operating, and all of a sudden you go from the math genius to the math failure. And as a teacher, maybe all I wanted to do was help you to do it the way I do it, because I think the way I do it's right. And I'm using this very obtuse example to get to that statement, the way I do it's right. As parents, as teachers, as therapists, we often think the way I do it is right. And that's a problem right there that we want to check ourselves on. So let's say your child says, I don't stutter as much when I pretend that I'm a princess. And see, I'm a princess. And they didn't stutter. And they went from this to this. And we think, oh, I remember when I was a kid and I had a speech problem where I was trying to talk and I kept saying, and that isn't how I fixed it. So you say, oh, no, the best way to do this is to breathe. You just took away a solution and said, my solution's better than your solution. Now, you did a bunch of things there that you're not even aware of. You said, your ideas suck. Don't do that, even though it makes you feel good. So now the child's conflicted. I want to help myself. I want to feel better. I want to talk like a princess, but mom says it's not good. You said, if you don't do it my way, it's not correct. And that was taken on maybe as a self-esteem issue, not just a compliance issue of trying to do what my mom likes or my dad likes or my therapist likes, but a self-esteem issue where it's like, oh, I'm broken. I don't, even my ideas are no good. Wow. You don't want to say your ideas are no good because you don't have subjective knowledge. You don't know what takes away that tightening feeling. You just have ideas. So it's really important that you allow the person who's coping with anything to find their own answers, share them with you, and you build on that. Or it's as simple as saying and instead of but. So this little girl says, because this is a little girl in my example, and she's going, and then she goes, see, when I'm a princess, then you build on it. Oh, that's fantastic. You can be a princess. And where is it okay to be a princess? And now you're shaping and building. Does it work if you don't say you're a princess? Can you just talk in this happy voice? Now you're experimenting, you're investigating. And then you say, oh, I had a little speech problem when I was young. And for me, what helped is if I breathe like a princess. So you're adding and you're building. All of this is help. And you can find things on the internet that are simple. Just say, what's a good exercise to help a stutterer or stammerer, depending on what country you live in? So breathing, characterizations, play, relax. Maybe when she's a princess, she holds her diaphragm in a different place, raises her body up, puts her shoulders back, gets in touch with her whole being, because being a princess is like that. Right. And now, if you said to her,
how much is that the parents? So I feel like all of these examples you're giving are amazing. And that's maybe something a speech therapist would work on, or you know, maybe at school they would know how to handle it, but how important is it that the parent does that as well?
That's so funny because I'm imagining the parent.
Yeah.
So you're hearing it as that, and I'm imagining the parent right now because I'm assuming.
I'm imagining it too, but I'm also imagining a parent imagining other people doing that.
Right. Wait, let's get realistic here. So you might have the parent. So I'm doing it the way I would do it. I'm very creative and fun, and and I would do all that. And on a bad day, I would say, "Oh, just go in the other room and stutter. I'm tired." Like we're all human, right? I can't right now. I can't be the good parent character right now. So it's okay to be human because in the long term, you'll win as long as you're mostly this other thing. And so relax. I'm not trying to tell everyone they have to be perfect. But there are the parents that think, I can't teach my child to be silly. I can't, characterizations are a long held solution where someone pretends to be something else and that something else doesn't stutter. And so they don't stutter in that character. It's many performers stutter except in character. It's decided along the way, gee, I guess I'll be a performer because when I do this, I do it flawlessly. When I be myself, I stutter.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's logical if we get into the brain and all of that, but also the pressure of the environment. So if you have a parent who goes, I can't have my children being silly, walking around school going, hello, it's lovely to see you, because they think in their head they're the princess. And now they get bullied because they're going, hello, I walk like straight and tall, right? So before they even shape it, then they start jumping on it and saying no. So my son's here with me, and you're going to go into frame. So lay back down. He just woke up. Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks. So if you shape it, is very different. You can say, and in my example, I said, where can you be a princess?
Yeah.
How can you? But if you're the parent who finds that kind of thing not teaching, not fixing, not addressing, then you're probably going to make it worse. You're going to end up someday at a speech therapist where you found the best speech therapist and you found the best doctor and you did all that while talking about how broken your child is and this stutter has to be helped and nobody's helping this stutter. And they heard you talking on the phone and they're in their room going, oh, I'm so broken. I'm such a problem in my house. And you get talking to this great speech therapist and she says, well, let's try. She's good when she's a princess. So why don't we start there? Because when she's a princess, she's doing nice diaphragmatic, smooth, slow breathing. She slows down her speech. And finally you go, oh, that's a good idea. And you don't even remember that you stopped it years ago because now any answer is a good answer. Let's just cut to the chase on this and start with anything that slows down. So this princess that I'm using as an example, it could be anything, but we'll stick with the same example. She holds her body differently. Well, that helps. That's why yoga helps, because when you do yoga, you breathe, you slow down, you stretch, you get your mind and your brain and your body all working together at the same time, at the same pace. And the whole environment gets breathing and slowing down and working at the same pace. Now you're all working together. You don't have fast processing in one spot and slow processing in another. And so this princess character does something similar. She's holding herself different because her shoulders are up. She's breathing from her diaphragm. She's speaking where she's breathing between breaths. And she doesn't worry about herself because it's not really her. So she's not doing, am I broken? What's wrong with me? She's not doing any of those thoughts that create extra noise and make it hard to get the execution of the congruent breathing and speech to happen together. So yeah, you want to check on yourself. Who are you as a parent? What kind of therapist do you now pick? What kind of environment are you creating that's adding to the feedback loop? And you want to check on yourself as a therapist. Are you adding stress when you give feedback to the parents? Are you making it harder for them given their style?
Does that also apply to stuttering with adults?
Stuttering with adults depends on, if it was an onset that was sudden, then something happened and you need to check on it. It's a sign of neurological degeneration, medication problems. It's a sign of trauma. You need to check on that if it's onset as adults. If it's someone who stuttered as a child and it didn't get better, they didn't get good tools, they're really struggling as a stutterer as an adult. So not a mild stutter. You're not in America, but I am, and President Biden has a speech issue like this. Well, he's what you would call a success case because he goes, first of all, everyone knows, so we wait. Secondly, he takes a time, he slows down, he uses different techniques, and he's not stuttering so bad that we want to finish your words for you all the time, right? If you're that level of stuttering, you would call that successful. You're handling it well, you're still able to, right? But if you're stuttering to where everybody wants to finish your sentences, nobody's comfortable letting you take the floor, all of that, now you have a real problem. Most likely you have a lot of environmental issues that happened when you were a child, people that really saw it as problematic. Maybe it was in a school, even if your family was great, you might have been bullied, you have stuff to deal with. You also have habit formation. So thinking psychologically only, like going for CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, is pretty good with stuttering. But you still need to, never mind just clearing out the bully issues or the problems of being accepted, you need to practice a new way. You need to come up with new techniques, ways of thinking, ways of doing. That's where cognitive behavior therapy is pretty good because there's kind of a homework aspect to that, a practicing aspect to that, that's unique in the world of therapies for psychiatric stuff. So, and cognition. So, as you're an adult, you really need probably to come at this from a lot of angles. You still might find, though, if you go to an improv class, or if you decide to be in community theater, or decide to do stand-up comedy, but you're going to do it as, I don't know, Howie Mandel. I remember he came out as a baby character when he first started.
Or knowing songs by heart and then singing.
Right, right. Thank you for bringing up singing, because I don't know why I wasn't. Then you might help yourself a lot and find your own answers. One of the things that you need is your own subjective knowledge, and you need to find that without the noise in your head from all the experiences of your past, and get a little self-trust on this and say, when I sing in the shower, thank you for bringing up singing. When I sing in the shower, I don't stutter. Why is that? And record yourself. That often helps because it's a private activity, and you can record yourself and say, wow, whenever I hit the letter B, I stutter like crazy, and start making lists of words that can be replaced. If they're starting with the letter B, what's a good synonym? Now you replace a lot of those. This practice itself might make the letter B less problematic because you feel less stuck worrying that, the letter B is going to come up in my talk, and what am I going to do? So now you have all this cognitive cooperation that you're doing with your own self.
Mm.
Sorry, let me get water. All right, I've been talking like crazy. Your turn.
No, I mean, that was helpful. We're not going to make a longer video than that, I think. But I think what I gained from that is just understanding that stuttering can come from different speeds in the brain, whether it's different areas and figuring out, okay, how can we rebalance
Can I
that?
clean that up? Can I clean that up? We have to not use words like it's caused by, and if I did, I apologize. It can be associated, correlated with. So we don't actually, yeah. So, but that, if we correct that, can then domino into a correction in how the person is. Yeah.
And so we can either do that with neurofeedback, but also behaviorally with the people around us, with ourselves, with the environment, and just making sure really that we're doing all of that together, but not too much to the point where the kid or adult feels broken, and then it becomes a vicious circle. And then maybe just I loved how you used President Biden as an example, because I think the idea of stutter and really any challenge is to get to a point where maybe it's still existent, but it's so minimal that we can still build a life and still be socially successful and make friends and have a successful career and be happy, and without it ever expecting it to completely disappear from our lives, because then maybe trying to make it disappear will make it worse.
Exactly. And if you're the person with the stutter, I don't know that President Biden does this, but maybe when he's on a town hall and he's asked a difficult question, he uses it to buy a little time while he thinks of a better response.
That's a good excuse. I wish we all had that. Hold on.
So, every human being takes their problems and finds the good parts of it. And what you don't want to do is build it bigger to get attention and help from everybody, but actually find a positive, forward moving, gorgeous life way of dealing with your issue. And we need to do that for our kids at the very beginning. And if we model that, it'll probably play out.
Nice. Okay. Thanks, Lynette. I hope that was helpful to everyone. And we'll do another video soon.
Okay.
Bye.
I'll try to be in some place where I don't look yellow.
Bye.